here now. So again, thanks for joining us. STLBEER and Master Brewers St. Louis District partnered up to put together some content to get out to everybody. So this is going to be the first of hopefully 4 panel discussions about different industry topics. And tonight we are talking about the impacts of COVID-19 on this industry. So a very timely topic with some amazing people who have been working very hard to weather this craziness. And I think they've been doing amazing stuff, and we've got a whole lot to learn from them. Very quickly, more housekeeping. So Master Brewers of the Americas, the St. Louis chapter, it's one of the oldest ones in this international organization. They're a nonprofit, and basically they are all about technical education in the brewing industry. So this group is made up of people who work in the local brewing industry and work in the brewing industry throughout the world. And we are also, while this is free tonight, accepting donations on behalf of our local district's scholarship fund that makes funds available for people in the brewing industry to go out and get additional education. So if you are so inclined to make a donation, there is a link to our PayPal giving fund on the invitation for tonight's meeting, on the Facebook page, on all of that. And for those of you who have already made a donation, I think we've raised about $300. So we're really grateful for that. And thank you so much. I'm going to turn my rambling over to the ringer that we brought in to moderate this group tonight, Alexis Zotos. Alexis is a reporter at KMOV and the host of Meet St. Louis podcast, a weekly show featuring interviews with chefs, brewers, and small businesses. She is a very good friend of the local brewing industry, and she's been doing a lot of work around this topic as well, talking with people and seeing what people are up to. So I'm going to turn it over to her. And to our amazing panelists, Derek Reiser from Old Herald Brewing, Kevin Limp from Four Hands, Denny Foster from Main and Mill, Libby and Steve Kreider from Second Shift, and Steve Albers from Center Ice. Thank you all so much. I know how busy you are for taking time out to do this. And so I'm going to turn it over to Alexis.
Well, thanks for having me, Troika, and thanks for everyone for joining into this. I think it'll be a really interesting conversation. We're just kind of going to dive into some of the big questions that I think so many people have. And I think the big one we should start with really is if each of you guys could tell us sort of the status of where you are in the reopening phase. Have you reopened your tap rooms? What does that look like? And what were some of those factors that have gone into it? Denny, if you want to start, I think you guys have opened for a couple of days now, a week now.
Yeah, we had opened our patio 2 weeks ago or so. We were the last ones in our area to do so in Jefferson County, like, I don't know, outside of Festus, Crystal City, but we were like the last people to open up our patio. We kind of wanted to see what everybody else was going to do. I was paying attention to a lot of other places and people I respect, see what they did. So I was trying to make sure that we were doing it the right way. We opened up the inside at like 40% capacity. Last week. So we did that on Thursday of last week. We're at 40%. It's kind of convenient because we have booths, so it's pretty simple to do the every other booth thing. And our county doesn't have a lot of cases and hasn't had a lot of cases. So, and we were, I think, like 6 days later than anybody else opening our inside in our area too. So, it's, we've been taking it seriously. We've gone through a lot of training with our staff. We do a lot of we do the masks, we do gloves, and make sure that they wash the gloves or change them. It's been kind of a process to just kind of adapt, see how things are going, making sure if we see anything that's not, doesn't look right, or maybe where we can make changes when we're going. So, I think we have 4 people that can sit at our bar. So it's like 2, if a couple comes in, they sit at one end, a couple comes in, they sit at the other, that sort of thing. So it's been interesting, to say the least, on how we've been able to figure it out. We've had lots and lots of management meetings to figure out how, where can something fall through the cracks, really, with the bathrooms and sort of things. So we have our bathrooms being checked every 10 minutes by staff. We sanitize everything. I mean, we got rid of our hand dryers. Now we use towels, and we take out the trash nonstop. I mean, it's been a thing to be able to adapt to this. I mean, initially it was a whole other thing, right when this happened, but So far, it's been going well. We've gotten a lot of good reports back from all of our guests, saying that we're very diligent and our staff is doing really well. So, as of now, it's going really well. Who knows what's gonna happen and how things are gonna progress. But I think if anything, this has taught us we can adapt on the fly to about anything. So overall, things have been going well, I think, for the most part.
And Libby, I think today is day one of reopening the patio for you guys.
It is, and it's not just our generic patio. So Steve has been working really hard. We actually converted majority of our parking lot into patio seating. So a standard parking spot is 9 feet across and 18, 20?
Yes, yeah, 18, 20 foot long.
So we utilize that to our benefit. So there is tables in each parking spot staggered. Today was day one. We are in the process of currently installing sunshades because
they came late.
But we just wanted to be really careful. Wanted to wait till the last minute before reopening any sort of seating to make sure that we were diligent on cleanliness. There is sanitizing wipes at every single table. There's menus at every single table. We're working on getting a QRC code menu that people can just download to their phones to see what our current menu is. The name of the game right now, honestly, in hospitality is just making people feel comfortable. And that's why we got into the industry in the first place, is to make people feel comfortable. And while it's definitely, the definition has changed in the past few months, we're still going to try to honor that. So yeah, today was the first day we opened up our patios.
And you're doing reservations, correct?
We're currently doing reservations only. If we are booked, then we unfortunately have to turn away some walk-ups, but today we weren't fully booked, and so we had a couple tables walk up. We were able to seat them not sporadically, but within social distancing measures, and they were able to enjoy a beer too. And we're right now only doing an hour and a half reservation times, 21 plus, no dogs, just until we get a grip on this. Like, I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew. I wanted to make sure that everybody felt comfortable. We'll eventually probably become more lax in some of our standards, but right now, like I said, like, the name of the game is making people feel comfortable, and right now people need to feel like they're spaced out enough, they're comfortable, they feel like they're being taken care of. And
Kevin, what about you guys at Four Hands? What's the status of opening for you guys?
So we're still working through that whole plan. Right now, we're still just doing zero contact order online. Come in, we've got your order for you. You arrive, and then we pass it underneath our window. So far, that's been working for us. We also know that we want to try and figure out what that next phase looks like. So we are looking to kind of maintain what we're currently doing through this month. And then the month of June, we're actually installing a 60-foot by 60-foot tent in our parking lot, kind of similar to the Kreiders and Second Shift, where we'll have 60 by 60 out in the parking lot, which will be obviously covered. We'll put table social distancing within there. We're also going to roll out some turf on the other side of our parking lot, put some picnic tables out, yard games, and just to make sure that we're providing a comfortable experience. We're being very thoughtful about how we're able to present that. But until that happens, we're really looking at all the modifications that we're doing inside, so that whenever that time is that we feel comfortable to allow people back inside our building, that we feel that we're set up for success. So we're installing a permanent walk-up window, which will be outside of our patio. That's going to be there forever now. We're going to have a doorbell out there, kind of a limited menu. Ring the doorbell, behind the bar, light flashes, and then we can have somebody run over there, take the order, go to our merchandising area, and then fulfill that order. We're rebuilding our kitchen in collaboration with Kevin Nash and the team at Peacemaker and Sydney Street. So we're going to have hoods and fryers and flat tops. So we're going to have a more of a robust kind of gastropub menu for when we do to open up. Hand sanitizer stations all over the place. We just want to make sure that we're making very thoughtful decisions. We've done the very best that we can to weather this storm over the last 2.5 months, and we want to make sure that we're continuing to make thoughtful decisions. It's hard. It's difficult. We're not getting a tremendous amount of guidance, and I would say that started 2.5 months ago, where we're all just trying to make the best decision for us, for our customers, for our companies. But that's our plan. We're going to ride out June, and then we have a plan that we'll push in July, and then really, you know, it's kind of been week by week, and we'll see where that leads us.
And Derek, you're over in Illinois, a whole other set of things happening in that state. What's your status on reopening, and what kind of decisions have gone into doing that?
Yeah, so we're in our second week of having the patio open. So we had the opportunity on May 29th to open up for outdoor seating only. And it has to all be spaced 6 foot apart, so socially distanced. And we have a really lovely patio here, so we were able to take advantage of that. And because we had a bocce ball court in an area for games and stuff, which we didn't feel comfortable bringing out right away, so we actually installed some turf over that space and added some picnic tables there so we can have groups of up to 6. It's all socially distanced. We went out and scrambled and found some garden sprayers, some little small handheld garden sprayers that we could use to be able to sanitize the mesh. We have like wrought iron tables. And so we can get into all nooks and cracks of those and spray those down. We have our masks for the staff, and we've been giving these away to guests. We got some branded neck gaiters that we're using, and we're just kind of like everybody else here. We're figuring out as we go along. I installed hands-free, faucets in the bathrooms we didn't have before, and made sure we had hands-free sanitizer dispensers and soap dispensers. And so we kind of got a scramble. We only had like 5 days heads up that we were going to be able to open. We're hopeful that Illinois reaches phase 4 possibly as early as Friday of next week to allow us to do a limited capacity inside. And so we'll remove all of our bar seating. We've socially distanced everything inside 6 feet apart, no groups larger than 6. And so possibly by next weekend, we'll have some limited 25% capacity or so inside.
And Steve, how about over at Center Ice? Where are things at with your plans? What's happening with you guys?
Yeah, we're not going to reopen for a while. We built a business around the bar and hockey season, and both in March that went away. And so we had to adapt to just sheer production, which we weren't ready for or used to. And for the last 3 months, it's been a big learning curve for us. And so with hockey starting back up in August, we're thinking potentially August, but now with it being in the middle of June, we're still 45 days away from that. So for right now, we're just trying to stay focused on production, and we're putting 100% of our new products in cans and just distributing to where we can and just hanging on for dear life.
Does it impact you guys because you don't really have much of an opportunity for patio space and an outdoor space? Is that part of the factor as well?
Unfortunately, yes. With the outdoor liquor licensing and then the big parking lot we have in the back, we just haven't pursued it at all. And it's just something that we don't intend on pursuing at all.
I think a question that so many businesses are dealing with is how to retain their employees. I'd be really curious if you guys would feel comfortable talking to us about how you were able to, if you were able to retain employees, if you furloughed employees, have you been able to bring some or all of them back? If someone wants to kind of dive into that topic.
Since I'm already here, I'll jump in.
Sure.
From day one, we sat down. So we have 5 full-timers. We have 2 people, Jack and Jim, that run the brew house. We have Kendall, who runs distribution, and we have Nick and Brody, who run our bar. And so Nick and Brody's positions have just evolved into curbside and delivery for us. Kendall is still managing distribution, and Jim and Jack are still brewing beer. So we unfortunately had to furlough our part-timers. We just didn't have any hours available for them. But we have kept our 5 full-timers on, and unexpectedly, we've really bonded well through these last 3 months. Just kind of, if there is a silver lining, we've really come together as a family, and it's been pretty special.
Kevin?
Yeah, so we're a team of 44 at Four Hands in 1220. right when this happened, I had a meeting with their tasting room team, and we had a conversation, and that was a team of 8, and we had to let 8 people go. You know, we did everything that we could as they were walking out the door to make sure that we were doing everything that we could to support them, and we were able to fortunately do that monetarily, as well as making sure that everybody knew that as soon as we figure out what this is going to look like, we want them back. They're a part of the team. We love them. We need them back. I guess thankfully we were able to make a pretty hard pivot pretty immediately into hand sanitizer. So we were able to bring 4 of those 8 back. And then, so pretty much those 4, as well as our sales team, have pretty much been spending about 80 to 90% of their time blending, bottling, selling, packaging sanitizer. So we're very grateful for that. And yeah, so, you know, we're still kind of like putting that plan together. Again, for us, it's week by week. We also don't want to make rash decisions. We want to be very thoughtful about what that's going to look like. But that's where we're at right now.
You know, we've seen an incredible outpouring of support from the community for those that have had to furlough employees and to help those in the hospitality industry. I'd be curious if any of you guys and your employees have been able to utilize some of those funds, the Gateway Resilience Fund. I know you guys have also donated a lot to them through your businesses. Has that helped a lot? Libby, I think you're on mute.
I'd like to chime in. We definitely utilized the Gateway Resilience Fund. They gave us a loan that definitely helped when all of this first went down. Similar to Kevin, when we saw the inevitable happening, we had to basically lay off our entire staff but one, other than Steve and I.
Which is 9. We had to let go of 9 people. But everybody was here that day, knew what was going on, talked about it. We cried about it.
It was a really emotional experience, but thankfully there's only been a couple in sales that are still unemployed, but we use a portion of our tips that we sell in our to-go sales and curbside that still go to them just to make sure that they're taken care of. We did a GoFundMe, which was incredible, but we also utilized the Gateway Resilience Fund, and as a result of it, in order to give back to it, I kind of reached out to some friends in the St. Louis beer industry, as far as friends that may not be in jobs in the industry, but may enjoy our beer. And the resulting factor is we have almost 200 bottles now that we're going to organize into an auction that will go to support the Gateway Resilience Fund, because a lot of places like us, when this first went down, we applied for the PPP loan. That was only an 8-week loan, and we are now reaching the end of that loan. They've since changed some of the rules for it.
Yeah, they made it easier now.
You either had to use it within 8 weeks or 24 weeks, or
they extended it now, so that's not so bad.
But it's still a lot of confusion for a lot of businesses, and there's still a lot of people furloughed. So we're going to do this auction with a lot of incredible bottles donated for the Gateway Resilience Fund, because this is not going to end anytime soon. Unfortunately, there's still going to be 25, 35, 40% capacity at restaurants, which still means that people are going to be laid off, people are going to be furloughed. So however we can help with that.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the PPP loans. Did all of you guys apply for them? And did all of you get them?
We did.
Yep. Yeah, I did. Yep.
Derek, how about you? I mean, have you been able to bring back your employees? How has the PPP helped over at Old Herald?
Well, it's been huge for us, and you know, so we had a team of about 40 as well, but most of those are college-aged folks or part-time servers, and obviously without on-premise dining, it's tough to keep those folks employed. But for our full-time staff and you know, our general manager for the restaurant, and we were able to keep, through the combination of the PPP and then keeping curbside takeout, doing family meals. We pivoted into hand sanitizer as well, since we have a distillery. And we didn't go into commercially offering the sanitizer. We started just giving it out to groups that needed it. So our first responders in the community, nursing homes, assisted living centers. So we kind of worked with the local Rotary to get that out there. But the other thing we did was we offered a free bottle with every curbside takeout order. And so that became appealing, and that helped us gradually bring back the servers that wanted to work. We could bring them and rotate them in. The kitchen staff that wanted to work, we could bring them in and rotate them in. And we got great support from the community for the curbside and takeout. It helped us establish ourselves a little bit better with off-premise bottle sales for our spirits and growler sales and stuff. So we started instantly selling as many growlers a day as we used to sell in a week. And so it was pretty fantastic. Still, just a small percentage of what our normal revenue stream was, but the combination of that to help sustain our staff and the PPP loan, and we're dedicating now. And like Steve said, it's much easier now. We were really sweating the 8 weeks, because if you think about compressing, it was a loan based on 2.5 months worth of payroll, but they ask you to use it in 8 weeks. And then when your revenue's down so much, when your need for staff is down so much, but I think now it's going to be a fantastic thing that helps us keep our head above water, and it's going to work. It's going to do what they wanted to do with it.
Denny, what about you? Has the PPP been helpful in keeping you guys where you need to be?
Yeah, it was huge for us. I applied within like a couple hours after it was released. So we were one of the first people to get it. And I was sweating it the whole time on how, because if you use all this money or you try to, and then at the end of the day, they don't forgive it, now you're in a worse space than you were the day before you got the loan. So it was extremely stressful for me. And our management crew and everything else, trying to make sure that we were doing it the right way. And then they kept changing the goalposts. That happened 3 times since I've had that loan. I think this last one is helpful. It's made a lot of differences, but it happened to be released a day before my loan was going to be done. So I have paid a lot of people to do maintenance work on our brewery, brought people back, as many of our team that could come back, I was paying to paint and then, redo things in the kitchen. They did extra crazy amounts of cleaning that maybe have been done 2 or 3 times, but we just kept them on as much as we could. So our staff of 42, whenever this all happened, went down to, 16 at the max. And that was, then that with all of the PPP, we started bringing people back periodically and trying to get them as many hours as we could. So I was trying to use our PPP money to keep people on as it was intended. But then once they changed the thing, it really, it's helpful for a lot of people, but I was trying to buzz through it to make sure that it was done correctly, that I was going to get it, forgiven. And it did help, it helped our staff. We've kept a lot of people on, and our brewery has never been, I don't think it's ever, since we opened, has probably never been actually as clean as it is now. Like, we clean nonstop, but as a restaurant, it's a different thing. We've taken out unbolted booths and everything else and made sure that did anything make it down there, that sort of thing. So it's been very helpful. I think it's gonna obviously, talking to a lot of people, it's gonna be just as helpful for them. If without that, it would have been, I really don't know where we would have been. So it's, and we'll see how it goes. I just hope that, we don't have a bounce back or anything like that, but it's been a godsend for us, really.
Derek really mentioned the word pivot, and I think that's the word of 2020 probably. I'd be curious what the biggest pivot has been for your brewery, whether it's hand sanitizer, whether it's starting delivery services, selling grocery items. What's been that biggest pivot, and is it something you think you'll continue? Steve, I know you guys started doing some delivery. Is that something that is helping in the way you were hoping it would?
Yeah, definitely. It's a new revenue driver for us that wasn't there. And before COVID, I didn't think it was legal to deliver direct to consumer. So that was a total eye-opener for us.
Did you get any permits or anything?
No, if consumers order online, you can deliver it to them, which I never, did my heavy due diligence on it, but I guess it's legal. So we jumped on it, and luckily we had a van. So we just started delivering direct to consumer, and we just expanded our zones a little bit more. And we're just going to keep, kind of being adaptable with that. And curbside's, curbside's going well. You know, it's definitely got its peaks and valleys, just like everybody else. And then just production to we self-distribute in St. Louis, so just shifting to distribution, and we've had a lot of support from Friar Talks and Randall's and Total Wine that has been very instrumental in keeping us going.
Libby, you guys started doing delivery as well, right?
We did delivery to start off with for the first couple of months, and it was basically a Band-Aid. We saw a lot of it kind of fall off. Where we needed a lot of our focus was on the curbside and on reopening the patios. I mean, 2 to 3 deliveries a day wasn't going to help us. And while it may work for another brewery, it just wasn't for us. It was something, in all honesty, it was just a panic mode decision. Like, we have to do something to create revenue. But we found that the deliveries were a little bit more of a hassle than they should have been. And in all honesty, like, we didn't know if we were legal to be able to do it. We don't hold all 3 licenses to be able to self-distribute, so we weren't sure what the delivery ramifications would be. So we made the conscious decision to end that last weekend and continue curbside, contactless curbside, and then focus the pivot on our patios currently.
Do you think curbside is something that will continue into the future?
100,000%. I feel like it was an underutilized opportunity that I think that majority of my friends in the brewing industry and in the hospitality industry in general wish they would have utilized beforehand. It has been an undeniable savior for us.
We stayed alive. Yeah.
We like,
it's like $200,000 a day.
Stop. Your nose is currently.
It's working.
It's working, and it's undeniable to see. I mean, we've had so many people say, like, I'm a mom of 3 kids. I just want to pick up a 4-pack of your beer. The curbside has made it so easy just to come in, grab it. So why didn't we think of this before? Unfortunately, it took a pandemic for us to have to reevaluate how we do things. And I'm hoping that continues on with how we evaluate hospitality. Like, how are we continuing to help people and how they gain access and are more considered inclusive into our brewing industry. And definitely the curbside has helped with that. So,
well, and I think even as we reopen, there are still so many people who are just not there yet in that comfort to go out and be around people. So I think curbside has been just incredible, and an ability to, maybe experience other breweries that you haven't had before.
I mean, watching Kevin and what he's been doing as far as just massive reconstruction to his brewery, like, Kevin was the first person to call us when all this happened saying, are you okay? What are you doing? This is what my suggestion would be to help. What do you suggest? Like, having those kind of interpersonal relationships within the brewing community and the hospitality has been invaluable. And I can't thank Kevin enough for doing what he's doing as far as the hand sanitizer for first responders. I mean, he hand delivered toilet paper and hand sanitizer the first week all this was going on. Like, to have that type of inner love and just communication, I think is also going to be key with how we as a brewing industry survive, is just supporting each other. So.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the things that makes our brewing community so special here in St. Louis. It's something I hear from everybody. And Kevin, you guys, as you mentioned, pivoted extremely to do hand sanitizer, and that's something that you guys are still doing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that 2 of our largest pivots, one was hand sanitizer, and I'm up on the 2nd floor tasting room right now. And this is now our hand sanitizer production area, right? I mean, we have totes and totes. We have a bunch of empty gallon jugs. Martin Toft, our brewery director, kind of put this great rig in place so that while we're filling, we're still social distancing. We're filling pretty much gallons right now. Everybody's 6 feet apart. It is so odd to sit up here and see this, right? We're accustomed to seeing people up here laughing and conversing and sharing pints and having a great time. Yeah, but we're so grateful for this opportunity also to make that pivot. And, we felt like it was a great opportunity. Like when this all happened, right? None of us really knew what the next month, 2 months, 3 months were going to look like. And morale at the brewery was really down in the dumps. We just didn't know what to expect. And as soon as we realized that we could make, produce, give, donate, sell hand sanitizer, it was like a real win for our morale at the brewery. It seemed like it fit in perfectly with our citywide mission. And so we just pushed. Like there was very little thinking involved after we got the okay to do it. We just said, let's do it. Let's push. And since then, we've been able to really kind of take a step back and kind of make it a little bit more on brand. We've got some more kind of apothecary labeling now that we're working with, where before it was like, FDA, what do you need? We're going to throw that on a label. We're going to get it out there. We're going to drop truckloads off to City Hall. If you need hand sanitizer, come to the brewery. We will give you 2-ounce bottles. We do not care if you buy anything. Be safe, be healthy. And now that's transitioned into how we're keeping our team busy, like the tasting room team, the sales team, and motivated and passionate. And so that's been big for us. I think another big pivot for us, really from a branding standpoint, was what we've done with seltzer. So we just released a contact high hard seltzer. And before that, we built a whole brand. We had all the assets ready on a brand of hard seltzer that was going to be called Free Space. We got a trademark approved. We have all the packaging locked and loaded. We had the flavors ready. And then just through analyzing Nielsen and IRI and what the last 2 months looked like, the data that we had been reading really kind of showed us that right now was not a very good time to try and build a new brand. You'd walk into a grocery store, it was kind of panic mode, right? Like you'd have your mask on. There was no impulse purchase. It was, I need to go and get milk. I need potatoes. I need chicken, and I am out. Right? There was no perusing of the aisles. And we typically do about 60-65% of our total business at grocery. And a lot of that business is through impulse purchase, right? You're looking for displays in produce, or buy the oranges, or buy the meat department. And that was like blinders on, get your groceries and go. So instead of launching that new brand that we spent a decent amount of time and energy on, we decided we feel like there's an opportunity in the category. Let's lean on a brand that we already have equity in. Let's build this through Contact High, which is already kind of a playful brand for us. So that was a pivot that we made, and that was, I don't want to say short-sighted, but we already had like this program in place. And because of what we saw, we made a pretty hard pivot, and now we're going to build a line of seltzer underneath Contact High.
I was curious sort of how the idea of brewing new beer has been, creating new things. Has that been a priority? Has it sort of just been, let's just do what we do? Can you guys walk us through what that looks like? And also in terms of inventory, how much to brew when distribution is so questionable right now, when restaurants for the most part are closed. What's that thought process been like? Anyone wants to dive on that?
I'll jump in and say, so I'm kind of the new kid on the block here, and so everything was kind of new to me anyway. But you kind of find yourself, once you start getting over the panic of what's going on, can you survive, and all that. Well, then he was like, well, how can you make the most of this? And so we did a little bit of the hand sanitizer stuff too, but that led to, because I wasn't getting shipments of GNS and stuff from I'm just a small craft distillery here. I had to make all of my base for the hand sanitizer. Well, I started running out of stuff because, in the early days, supplies were constrained a bit. Mm-hmm. And so I reached out and I built some new relationships with some local wineries. We're able to use some old oxidized wine to convert into hand sanitizers. Well, that's turning into us exploring together wine-based distillates and making some kind of interesting brandy things or some infused flavors out of that. And, you know, he kind of, Kevin was talking about the seltzer and stuff. So that got us on, well, how could we make a seltzer product that's a little different than just starting, you know, mimicking the ones that are on the product already. So we had a little bit of time on our hands too through this, right? We're not as busy serving our guests on site. And so your mind begins to wander a little bit and you start to think about, well, what if? And I was all about on-premise sales. You know, more about the tap room, easing into distribution since I'm new because distribution's so competitive. But that kind of freed us up to think about, well, if we did start to dabble into distribution, where would we go with it? What kinds of things could we do with the spirit side? Start getting a little more creative with the beer and cross category kinds of things. And it's been fun. And the relationships are the silver lining. It's you know, it's had me reaching out a little bit more to the community that's here, getting the opportunity to participate in things like this through the community. And that's good for all of us. I mean, that's just fantastic that I think those of us that are able to survive this and work through it are going to be stronger together. And we're going to have some pretty phenomenal community support through the things that we've done and built through curbside and really building that loyalty and the recognition of how important our local producers are and how important it is to support that. And that, I think, you know, it's a pretty tough go right now, but there is a silver lining here that could be phenomenal for all of us.
Denny, how about you guys in terms of brewing and brewing new beer? What has that been like over the last 3 months as you try to gauge what happens next?
Well, we are in a unique position compared to most, is that we had literally just started brewing on a new expansion building like a week before all of this happened. So it was our first batch. We just started figuring it out. We messed that all up because we're figuring out our equipment. And so we were just getting that going. I think the week before, we closed on a Wednesday. So we'd had maybe one, two beers, small beers in the tank at the new facility. Then I broke my leg on Sunday after we closed the restaurant. So we went from 3 brewers down to 2. And then it just came down to the restaurant being closed. We really don't have any lines of getting our beer out at the new place because we hadn't even started really brewing. We do a lot of things. We try to move slow. We like to say, hey, we want to make sure we do it right before we really start going full steam ahead. So we had a lot of decisions to make as to how are we going to, you know, our new system's 20 barrels and we have a 3-barrel pilot. So you'd think that with all of this equipment, we'd be brewing 20 barrels, but it just because of all of the costs involved, we moved and just had our 2 brewers, Brandon and Caleb, basically knocking out 3-barrel batches. And they were socially distant doing it and then canning it for our very first time using a canning line. Like we didn't, you know, we had 1 beer come through before all of this because the people that had the canning line came up and tried to help us. Didn't give us enough kind of, I think the guidance of what we had was a little bit more, but it was in a hurried situation. And so we had to figure it out, not only figuring out what we need to do to make a system run. And now we have a whole new element of financial obligations to a new expansion that we were planning on already moving slow, but now we have to try to ramp up to get cans to our restaurant because everybody wanted us to have cans. So it was just almost every day, you know, we're on the phone talking like, okay, what can we do here to get cans out immediately? But we don't want to have too many cans because we don't want to be sitting on them because we didn't have any idea. So, luckily our community stepped up and was, you know, basically buying us out of the cans that we were producing. So, because 1, they were new, they hadn't seen them before. And then 2, they do, you know, a lot of them just did whatever they could do to support us. So our curbside was huge, for the cans that we were doing and then for our food and everything else. So, I think now we're finally in the last month or so, we're finally starting to get like a catch of a breath here on like, we have the system pretty well down. But whenever you're already kind of feeling like you're getting dunked underwater with all of this, and then we didn't have the processes knocked out on a new system that we now have financial obligations on, it got very stressful. It got really to where it's like, well, we can't mess this up. Like, we have got to can this batch. Like, we need the revenue because have to pay bills. So whereas that's never really been, we've never been that close to feeling like we're kind of our backs against a wall. So we've come out of it. We've had a lot of support because of it. And I feel like there is going to be a silver lining here but it's still not without its constraints and issues that we're having now. But yeah, it's been tough, but we've gotten through it.
Libby, I know you guys, your beer is in so many restaurants. How has those closures impacted over the last 2 months, and how does it continue to impact how you make decisions on a day-to-day, not knowing what those other restaurants will be doing and bars will be doing?
I think a big relief that happened a couple weeks after all this went down was I want to give a big shout out to our distribution partner, Craft Republic. Brian Dix, who runs Craft Republic's first call to us immediately after this was, we can pay all of your open invoices right now. Do you guys need money? What do you need? How can we help you? And so maintaining distribution partnerships and making sure that those are taken care of have been the biggest relief as far as on-premise versus off-premise. On-premise was a really big issue for us within the St. Louis city, and we definitely saw a drop-off of that, but seeing the off-premise push by our distribution partners, especially Craft Republic, has made up for it, and especially doing the to-go, the curbside, has helped supplement that. But I feel like having really good relationships, maintaining good relationships with Missouri's a 3-tier state. You're obligated, unless you have the correct licenses, to a distributor, and making sure that you have a personal good relationship with that distributor is how we have survived. Craft Republic has gone above and beyond for us. As far as draft, I mean, we're seeing our beer on draft at places that I know that beer was kegged in January, like probably should have been served earlier, but who are we to fault somebody if they kept the beer correctly housed, who are we to fault somebody for trying to continue to make a profit off of that, especially if we know that we did the correct thing in canning that beer, kegging that beer, making sure it was properly stored. Basically what we're doing now is pre-orders of kegs for on-premise. So we send out an inventory every week to our distribution partners. They send us what their keg desires are. We try to fulfill that upon request. I mean, we're still a very small brewery. Usually gets fulfilled about half of what they want, but we know that those kegs are going directly to bars that are going to put them on tap and that they're going to be used. But the rest of it, I mean, it's canned. I mean, canned beer has been our lifesaver through all of this. So about a year and a half ago, we made the decision between whether to invest in a canning line or a larger brew house, and thankfully we made the decision to do a canning line, and that proved to be our savior.
Mm-hmm. And Steve, I feel like that was a similar thing you mentioned, that canning was relatively new, and now you're really all in with it.
Yeah, I'll parlay on what Libby just said. That canning line's been our saving grace. Without that canning line, I mean, to try and get, just growlers and just crowlers out curbside, we wouldn't have survived. So that, I mean, to say that the canning line is our saving grace is, I mean, it's everything for us. And as small as we are, just a team of 5, we're still trying to build our brands. And so we're taking it, we did launch one new one that we kind of pulled together, all 5 ideas from all 5 people, and actually 6 including myself, and it was our stick around IPA. It's a IPA with hibiscus, juniper, lime, and honey, and then a plethora of hops, and that has kind of been our glue for that beer, of just kind of not only did we design the beer together and write the recipe together, but we also do all the artwork in-house too. So Nick was sketching and Kendall's working on Illustrator, and it was just a really collective thing that just really brought us together. And that one was really special for us.
Have you been able to really let the creative juices flow when it comes to brewing, if your mind is, you know, really focusing so much on survival mode?
Yeah, so we turn 3 in next month, and so we're still, you know, we're still a baby in all this, a toddler, and for us to, you know, we did in our first 3 years, we've done 50 different beers, and most of that has just been on draft. So it's hard to bring those brands to light just in a keg and just on tap. So that canning line not only has saved us during this COVID-19 thing, but it has also helped us bring our brands to life. Like the old arena, you know, we built our bar out of the old arena to kind of give, you know, that throwback blues feel. You know, that beer has done wonders for us. You know, I mentioned the stick around, and we also have the Beauty, which is our IPA with oranges, big bright orange can. So, you know, having new brands, new beers in cans, I like I said, I don't know how we would have survived without it.
Danny, how about you? I mean, creativity wise, do you feel you've been able to kind of look into that idea, or has it just really been, as you said, you've had your back against the wall? Is there not time to kind of think of new things like that right now?
Well, we were already creating like our own new brands for the new place. That the idea that we were going to start putting them out in like 2 months, you know. So whenever this happened, it went from we're really going to start putting stuff out in 2 months and kind of trickle in some stuff that we've already done, to we need beers in tank now and we need cans over at the pub like tomorrow, which is impossible, but that's kind of where we were at. Because we didn't want to, you know, we were doing some pre-filled growlers, but we didn't have a whole bunch of growlers because we were moving into cans. So, you know, so what we ended up doing was we've created a classics label. So basically what we've done at the brew pub is, you know, we brewed 250 different beers, I think, at the brew pub in 4 years, which is why it's fun and it's why it's fresh. But we've moved into a classics label. So we're being able to put out, you know, some of our beers that people at the pub have known. So like Belgian Wits and Green Chili and an APA and a brown ale, like all of the ones that people like to sit in a pub and drink. We created a label for those to be able to create basically a classic of anything. And then those have gone really well while we were still working toward what we had already planned on. So, you know, we've got these fruit beers that we've been wanting to do, and we've now put out 2, and we've got 2 more coming out next week that for us, we're going to take us a little time. You know, we don't want, we're newer to this side with, you know, canning of elements and things like that. So it just put like the gas pedal straight down. Like you can't put something out and fail, but you want to be able to spend the time and the dedication to make sure that what you're putting out is the quality that you're wanting to put out. I'd have to, because if you don't put out good beer in this competitive market, you're just asking to fail anyway, much less without COVID. So it's been a thing trying to make sure that we're able to get the pub beer, keep it in stock with 3-barrel batches on it when we have a 20-barrel system, and trying to, because we really didn't want to oversaturate even the pub and have our brown ale there for 6 months in cans, because we don't distribute right now. We don't have any canned things lined up, but, you know, we're not sending out cans to any of the local places currently. We were gearing up to maybe do some of that, but not a lot. So it's been kind of like a, should we change our model situation and trying to pivot. Most of our pivoting happened a lot at the restaurant aspect because we have a full restaurant along with the new expansion. So most of that went to that, where it's like, okay, how do we keep as many people employed as we can? How do we get food in as many people's hands as possible? And how do we make sure that when they leave with food, they take beer with them? And like, how's that? What's the best way to do it? So, you know, I would say, luckily we've done okay with it. I think that I don't know if we could have made any better decisions, but so far now we're starting to put out beers that we wanted to put out, and the time frame isn't too much different than what we expected to begin with. We just kind of had to fit it into putting classics in the people's hands so they could drink, you know, sitting at their porch because they don't have anything to do. So it's been fun. It's been enlightening. I think our team has grown, you know, personally and as a group. And I think in the end, it's going to end up being a positive thing for all of the people that we have as employees and as family, and how we've treated this.
One of the interesting things about this panel is we do have, you know, Jefferson County with Illinois, and we've got St. Louis City. All of those places have really taken these regulations very differently. The state of Missouri, you know, quote unquote, fully opened on Tuesday, but each county and city is sort of doing something differently. How difficult has that been to try to make decisions in the here and now, and then also looking ahead to the future when you've got so many different regulations and rules? Kevin, do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of the hardest parts about this entire thing that we've been dealing with. There's really been little guidance, I would say. So, I mean, I would say that for us, we really have taken this extremely seriously, and we've completely reworked our entire system. So our sales team is only allowed in our tasting room, in the second floor tasting room. Our production team is only allowed in the production area. We're still working on 2 shifts. We have an AM shift and a PM shift with an hour gap in between. That AM shift is only AM and only PM. So there's no commingling of teammates between those 2 shifts.
Is that in case anyone does get sick that you can have that separation?
Completely shut down that shift and then keep going. We've had 3 teammates that have come to us and said, I feel like I could be somewhat symptomatic. We have had all 3 of those people leave on pay for 2 weeks. One individual is actually 3 weeks, not allowed to return back until they've had a non-positive test result. And thankfully everybody came back not positive. So, we're doing everything that we can. We're taking the due diligence. We've been very strict with where we can go, who we're working with. Mask is required at all times in here. And so we're kind of building our own platform. And, like we kind of started off, we're going to also bring that into when we decide to reopen, whatever that looks like. It's going to be outside for a full month before we allow anybody inside. We're always going to have that walk-up window available. Like Libby said, that is a part of whatever this new normal looks like. We think hand sanitizer also is a part of that new normal. So I think that we have been diligent on the decisions we've made, and really it's to protect our team so that we can all come in with confidence and go to work and still joke around and still have fun and still be passionate about what we're doing every single day, but making sure that we're being really careful.
Mm-hmm. Derek, how about, in Illinois, you mentioned that phase of reopening your patio happened really fast. They just it was barely any notice. How has that been for you in the Metro East, where, it has been different because there hasn't been as many cases as, Chicago and the rest of the state?
Right. And that's been, that's been frustrating some days to be able to really, everything's designed around Chicago because they have been such a hot spot for this. And in our area, almost, I think it's close to 90% of the deaths have been in nursing care facilities, right? Extended care facilities. So it's devastating, but I think we have a lot of our local community, they aren't as afraid of it because it hasn't touched as many people here as it has upstate. And so it's been interesting. When Missouri opened up, we saw a distinct downturn in our curbside and takeout because a lot of our community was going to St. Charles to dine. It's like, okay, I can finally go out someplace and that. And so that was a little disheartening for a while. And so it was very encouraging to us that they opened up outdoor seating as part of the phase 3 plan on the 29th. And so far that's gone well. We're still, I think somebody else mentioned, the guidelines are kind of up in the air. There's not a lot of great guidance, but in defense of Illinois, what they have produced is solid, right? So they've given us nice, they've even given us nice backing materials and stuff and signage to put around and to help kind of inform our guests of what we're doing and what their expectations. And, so we kind of have a compact with, we have a couple of signs throughout the restaurant or, in the doors to the restaurant. It's like, okay, here's our end of the bargain and here's your end of the bargain, right? You're not going to come here if you're feeling any kind of symptoms or have felt in the last couple of weeks, right? We're going to wear masks, we're going to wear gloves, we're going to sanitize everything in between. It sucks to serve beer in plastic cups, but it's what we're doing. And we had to search out plastic cups that are biodegradable, and compostable. So, but we'll do that. We're gonna spend a lot of money on that. It's going to eat into, the revenue stream, but it's the right thing to do. But I think making people feel comfortable and to ease into this and let's explore this new normal together is key. And it's new territory for our governments. It's new territory for us as business owners. It's new territory for all of our guests. And, as long as we're all patient together and we all have our hearts in the right place and we're going to do this right, I'm convinced we're going to work through it just fine.
Denny, and you mentioned you were one of the last to open in Jefferson County. Jefferson County was a place that opened, right when Missouri opened. It's not that far from St. Louis. Did you guys see a lot of people coming down though from the St. Louis, from the Illinois area that were, looking for a bit of that normal feeling?
Well, with us just opening our patio less than 2 weeks ago, a lot of our business really actually does come from the St. Louis area and the greater region. We get a ton of, from Festus and Crystal City, but we're only so big in our county. So we get a lot of that traffic from that. So we still got a lot of it. I mean, since we opened the inside, we've had tons of messages from people, as far as 2 or 3 hours away that might, especially from Illinois, where they're still locked in. People that are still totally on lockdown, basically, that will drive 3 hours to get a couple of beers on our patio because they don't really have anything to do, and they've been doing the same thing for the last 100 days. So it's been interesting to see that. We, as a team, we're still, we just had a conversation today with it blowing up in Florida and Texas and Arizona and all of these things. What is stopping it from eventually blowing up here? And then how are we going to then pivot again? And instead of it pivoting in a matter of 8 hours and changing our entire business model when we were about to release a new menu, we're wanting to get ahead of it this time. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I run our Main Street organization here, and I know 60% of the people on Main Street, the owners of businesses, feel like that if it happens again, that they will not be able to open up at all. And I can totally understand that. So the fear is totally still there, and we have been acting like it when we open. That we're still making sure that, hey, that we could end up having to close tomorrow. I mean, we really just don't know. I'm watching the numbers every single day, making sure that our team remains diligent, because one thing that happens is you can progressively watch people that it acts like this didn't happen. As you go out, you go grab a couple of drinks, you go out to Walmart, you have your mask on. Well, maybe a week from there, I'm noticing a lot less people are wearing masks. And so we're just kind of preparing again for the worst and hoping for the best, as opposed to sitting on our hands. And if it does happen, that we aren't prepared. So,
I think we're going to take a quick break, let anyone go to the restroom, grab another beer. If you guys have questions, please send us some questions. I think you can send them on this chat thing on the side or on the Facebook Live if you're watching on Facebook Live. So send us some questions. We'll take some Q&A from the audience when we come back from a break. Does that work? Yeah. I think Derek needed a drink.
Yeah, no, it is pretty hilarious. I should have had a sign I could hold up that says, be right back.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, you can't understate the importance of bathroom and fresh beer. But thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and panelists. This is really amazing. We are so grateful to have you here.
Alexis, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking the side work from Schlafly.
Nice.
Yeah, I was down at the City Museum for a podcast today, so I popped into Schlafly and picked up, and I'd been wanting to try this. And I think this was one that was donating to the Gateway Resilience Fund.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Jared's wedding beer.
Yeah, that's right, which is sad, but again, silver linings on how we put them to good use. It's incredible what the Gateway Resilience Fund has been able to raise and how many people they've been able to help. So Oh,
Sammy.
hello, baby.
We're gonna bring Sam in for the Q&A.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Yep. You right there, buddy?
I've realized I haven't properly gotten to the bottom of my beer stores. I had some old center ice, and then I just found a this gem.
Oh, Kreider would be proud.
Yeah.
I have no idea where Kreider went. He just disappeared. All right.
Actually, that's what somebody wanted to know. Everyone wanted to know what you all were drinking. But we'll wait till everyone gets back and we'll.
Really, you know what? I do have.
Denny, I had one of your berry beers recently. It was stellar. Very, very good.
Well, thank you. That's the thing. We just did one with peaches, and so literally canned this yesterday, and I got some of the first off the line because I'm still not able to be there on a day-to-day basis because I still can't walk. So
how'd you break your leg?
Playing rec volleyball. So we closed on Wednesday, and my wife and I play rec volleyball with her family, like and it's a pretty competitive rec volleyball. So, but somebody had to stay home with the kids, and that's always me. If there's one of us, but this time she's like, you are stressed out of your mind. You need to go and take a break. It was like we had a double header and 5 minutes left in the second game. I don't even know how it happened. I went and tripped on it and landed on like my leg and broke my shin bone in half, and then the bone that goes up next to that in half. And so it's been 14 weeks and I'm still not walking.
Were you in a full cast?
No, they put for 10 days because it was so swollen. They didn't put me in anything. So I'm like laying on the couch, had my leg elevated with no support whatsoever, just broken in half. And they're like, here's some medication, which I don't like taking. So I'm taking ibuprofen with it. I was like, this can't be like normal, right?
Wow. What a time.
Yeah. Well, initially when it happened, I was like, this couldn't have happened at a worse time because I was on the phone nonstop. I needed to be down there with the team. I needed to make sure that everybody's in the positive, has as much positivity as you can. And then realized once we started getting in that mode, I'm like, if this were there's no good time to ever break your leg. Let me tell you that. But, it's allowed me to do things that I wouldn't have done if I was working down there. Like we set up a grocery fund for our team. We've sold stuff on our website. There's just a million things that I wouldn't have had time to do otherwise. And so it's kind of worked out. I'm a stay-at-home dad right now too. So because my wife went back to work. And so it's again, the silver lining of it is I think there's a lot of stuff that came out of this that I would have liked to have done, never would have been able to do. And now, we're making a lot of headway on stuff that now I have time to do. So.
Right. Well, I mean, cheers to all the parents that are out there. I can't imagine homeschooling, trying to salvage your business, trying to survive this pandemic. So yeah, thank God for beer. I mean, thank God for curbside.
Zoom calls are always fun. So like we have Zoom calls, and almost every time there's, I would say 60 or 70% of the people on Zoom calls has a kid chime in at some point. And then now everybody understands it. So it's really fun because there's sometimes my 3-year-old wants to sit on my lap on a Zoom call and nobody acts like it's any different than anything else now. Whereas it's been before, like, we're kind of talking about some serious stuff here. Like, Yeah, so
all the old things are really out the window.
It really is. It's been interesting on how fast things can change.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like everyone's back here. So we will dive back in with some of the questions. I think a good one to start is someone wanted to know what everyone's drinking. So if you're drinking something, share with us what you're drinking.
I guess I'll start real quick. We just canned, let's see here, our next fruited smoothie beer yesterday. So it's just one with an insane amount of peaches and vanilla. So it's kind of like peaches and cream type situation here. So that will be our third fruited beer out of the new system. So still kind of figuring it out, but I can tell you it's enjoyable because that's all I have right now in my fridge, that and some Busch beer, I think. So
I can't wait to buy that.
Yeah. Kevin, what are you drinking? Are you drinking anything over there?
I'm doing passion fruit Prussia.
Solid.
Yay.
One of my
Derek,
favorite. You guys.
oh yeah, Libby and Steve, what are you guys drinking?
I don't know.
Our little big hop, which has pickles and iceberg lettuce in it. It's phenomenal.
Such an asshole.
Oh goodness. Steve, what are you drinking over there?
I am drinking our new Revolving Pale Ale series. So we are on the quest to finding a core flagship pale ale, and we've decided to take the consumer on with us. So we've got 4 renditions done, and so I did 003 and 001. It's been a lot of fun to experiment with.
Are you like gauging public comment on it, or when you take the public with you, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so 001 was a traditional West Coast pale. 002 was a pale ale focused on mosaic hops. 003 was a New Zealand. 004 was a mosaic with Calypso hops. And so the even series, what we're doing is we're really kind of playing with mosaic, as you can see. And then the odd series, we're doing something completely different. Like 005 is going to be a Belgian pale. 007 is going to be an English pale. And so we're with getting our beer into the market, we're seeing how well it's doing. We're getting direct feedback. And then checking, unfortunately, and checking Untapped as well. So,
Derek, what are you drinking tonight?
So I'm double fisting it. I have our Printer's Ink, which is a black ale. It's an ale that thinks it's a short beer. It's about 7.3% ABV, very smooth. Looks like it's a little heavy for the summer, but drinks very light. So it's my favorite, fits our theme. And this is my first bourbon that we've made here on site. And I was going to release it on March 18th on my birthday. So it was my birthday bourbon. And so I got to wait until we get this COVID stuff out of the way.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd time to be celebrating anything, but we got to do what we can. All right, I'm going to dive into some of the questions that are over here. First question is, what percentage of your drive-up sales have been cans, growlers, or even kegs? I think some of you guys have talked about how those curbside sales have been pretty huge, but what's been the most popular in that percentage of what you're seeing on curbside? Libby?
Lots of cans.
I mean, are they asking let me rephrase. So 95% have been can sales. Maybe 5 to 3% have been to-go kegs, but it's been majority can sales because that's all we've been offering. So can sales and bottle sales have been everything. So where prior, when we had distribution into on-premise, i.e. draft onto accounts, it used to be more of a 60-40 split. It's now pretty clear in 95 to 5% split. So.
Steve, what about you guys?
I would say probably pretty comparable with Libby, 95%. We had a hard time getting crowler cans in from Oscar Blues. It was like, when all this went down, it was like a 4 to 6 week lead time. And just with not knowing what was going to happen with COVID, we decided not to pursue crowlers. And we were able to get glass growlers in St. Louis. There's a website, Buy Own Bottles, and Buy Our Bottles or something. And we were actually able to go pick up glass growlers in the city of St. Louis. And so that was our main pivot to growlers. But even still, that was really just to kind of unload some current inventory. But 95% is all cans. And then when we're out of cans, we do the growler specials.
That actually flows really nicely into the next question, which is, what have been some of the concerns with supply chain? Have you had those concerns, and how have you addressed them? Kevin, I think when we talked on the podcast weeks ago, you guys were just starting to do hand sanitizer, and you were having issue getting just the containers for it.
Yeah, that's accurate. And we were lucky enough, I guess that big first order that we did was for City Hall. So we leaned on City Hall's network, and we were able to find a couple good suppliers. And actually we've teamed up with Rio, who does all those delicious syrups for your snow cones. And so we're getting all of our bulk gallon jugs in box from Rio syrup right now for hand sanitizer. Like Steve mentioned, we were having some issues getting crowlers, and that was really the one that kind of bright spot for us. Steve, if you need contact for crowlers, let us know. We found it. It's smaller orders and a little bit more expensive, but we've been able to secure it. But prior to this, we really weren't selling crowler at all. And now we're seeing some of our more specialty stouts that customers loving it in the crowler. So for us, can for sure, crowlers have been great. And then we're trying to be creative also on mix packs. So we went to our box supplier and we just got blank generic craft 16-ounce 9-pack boxes and then 12-ounce 12-pack. So we're doing like a mixed can cocktail 12-pack. We're doing a mixed contact high 16-ounce 9-pack to just try and drive, just being creative in what we're trying to offer to try and drive people to the brewery.
Has anyone else had any issues with supply chain in terms of getting things over the last couple months, and has it gotten better?
I have with the restaurant for sure. So brewery hasn't been too bad for what we're doing, but for a restaurant, we stocked up on, because we kind of foresaw some of this when I was reading a bunch of articles early, like, hey, there's going to be a problem. We filled our entire freezer with ground beef and pork belly and pulled pork, like pork butt type stuff. You know, at the normal prices. And then it was a week after that, they went up to like $5 a pound. So we were doing that to make sure that our prices didn't jump, because now the last thing you want to do is raise your prices when everybody's most everybody's feeling a financial pinch there, so that's been tough. It's starting to kind of come down, but now we're worried because they said that everything that has any processing whatsoever, like bacon, is going to spike coming this upcoming week. So it's like, the food aspect of it's always kind of up and down, as no matter whenever time you're at, something could have a bad season. But now it's with everybody getting COVID in the meat packing plants and all that, it's been a different kind of environment on trying to make sure that you can keep your prices where they're at without having to raise them, and trying to plan ahead whenever really you just don't know. I mean, the last thing we want to do is have a freezer full of ground beef, and then if a price didn't spike, now we just have a freezer full of ground beef, so it's been interesting to kind of figure that out as we go.
Yeah. That actually brings up an interesting question in terms of pricing. Have you guys had those conversations about needing to raise prices? Have you thought, we've seen some places doing what, some are kind of calling a COVID tax, adding on some additional percentage to cover some of those increased costs. Have you guys had those discussions or needed to do anything like that?
Honestly, no, that's just not fair in my personal
we haven't had
opinion.
to.
It's not fair to tax the consumers that are helping keep our business alive even more. People that go out of their way to come and pick up curbside, which a lot of people have. Like, I just don't, in my personal opinion, I don't think that's fair. So no.
Yeah. Same here. We've avoided that. We're just trying to manage our own costs as much as we can. We actually lowered the price of our beers and our growler fills, just in recognition of it and to help us keep a good flow of product moving. We didn't want to have a bunch of stale beer around anyway. So we've kind of done a little bit of the opposite and just trying to create a good value proposition through value meals, family meals for folks curbside, and it's been received well. It's tight, but we'll get better at what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys.
Don on Facebook wanted to know whether online stores, the curbside, will all continue even after everyone reopens. And I think we kind of talked about that, but I'd be curious to know, something that's been introduced during, pandemic times. Are you surprised that you think, we're going to definitely keep this as part of the business model forever now?
I know we are. We're going to keep, we're going to be keeping a curbside open for as long as we can. We're in a weird spot though. We don't have our own parking lot and we're in a corner thing. So when everybody was closed, we had all the spots in front of our place, no problem, because there's nobody else open. But now that everybody's open, we're having to figure out in the back, but we're still getting a good portion, even though we open the patio and open inside to social distancing, we're still getting that curbside element. And so we're going to keep on going on it. I mean, there's a lot of people that really just, it's nice to have, 3 or 4 4-packs or 6-packs brought out to their car because they're going on a float trip or something. And it's worked out really well for us because we're kind of on the way down to the rivers. So we're going to keep going with that.
Absolutely. There's a good question here. For those of you that don't own your buildings, that you have landlords, have they offered, if you can talk about this, any financial relief or support? Have they been understanding of this time period? Is anyone able to talk about that aspect?
Yeah. Our guy right off the bat, I mean, we kind of St. Patty's Day, it hit us here like, oh shit. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You can say that.
Probably 2 days later, without contacting him, he reached out to us and was like, don't worry about rent. We'll figure it out later on. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people and they're like, oh, our landlord's been great. The bank's been great, whatever. They really didn't have a choice, because they knew they saw what was inevitable. It was coming. But I mean, our people, because we do lease our building and I'm in a process of starting, maybe going to buy it now because of this. But he was like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out later on. Just don't worry about rent. In a few months, we'll talk about it. And we'll straighten it out later on. Them and the bank, because we have a bank loan for equipment, our bank reached out to us on that same day, coincidentally, and was like, hey, we're converting everything to interest only, 90 days. And if you need 90 days more, we'll extend it out. Anybody we owe money to, were reached out to us first before we even thought about it, and really took care of us, if you will. Yeah, it was good for us.
Anybody else on that note?
We own both of our buildings, but we have pretty good size of loans on those buildings, and then the equipment, and both of, we have First Community Credit Union for the new expansion, and they reached out immediately, and I was on it too, and they were already reaching out, like wanting to ask if we needed our payments deferred. So it's been, really helpful. And then our other one, we have an SBA loan, and SBA with all of the CARES Act covers 6 months of our payments. So I have 6 months of payments covered by the CARES Act because I have an SBA loan. So with all of that, I mean, between that and the PPP, I mean, it gives you a breath of fresh air knowing that if this, there'd be a lot worse things going on if you didn't have a good of elements of people that are making sure that you're taken care of, because they are if you are. So it's worked out well.
You guys all kind of really talked pretty positively, at least where the PPP is at now. Do you think there needs to be additional grants, loans, support from the government to help make this business sustainable for everyone?
I mean, I'll jump in with one thought. It's great that that's been there, and it's probably saving us, frankly. But I mean, we also have to make sure that we're taking care of the people, and it not because it can get abused so easily at a company or a corporate level. And so if folks are also the folks are out of jobs and are maybe going to be out of jobs for a while still, if they go away, then our business goes away too, right? So there needs to be a good balance there, and I'm super happy that there's been some safety nets for us here, but we're also going to be dependent on our guests being able to come and afford to have a beer.
How have you guys utilized social media to connect with your customers in this time? Have you learned new social media skills? Have you done something different? Steve, I know you've been really pretty brutally honest on some of the videos you've posted. What can you kind of walk us through why you wanted to share some of those videos?
Yeah, before we opened, I started vlogging and just documenting the journey of a guy that has a dream of opening a brewery, and it really built a foundation, and I stopped. it's too hard to do both, of run a brewery and vlog on a regular basis. But sitting on the sidelines in 2020 and just seeing how, you know, I've got some friends that are, you know, in the corporate world and different, and they didn't understand what was happening. You know, they're like, yeah, I'm working from home, but you know, and that's when I was just like, okay, like I'll share the reality of the situation, you know? And I'll be honest with you, so just like Denny, we had our PPP loan application in day one. That is, to be honest, that's been a real lifesaver for us. That's how we were able to keep our full-timers on. And then now, looking back at it, when I did that vlog, that week before I did that vlog of like, hey, we're fucked. Like, that's the reality of the situation. You're gonna start to see bars and restaurants go out of business because there's just not enough support to survive this. And our sales, I mean, quadrupled. You know, again, they were really down, but doing that vlog, I mean, all of a sudden we were kind of in scramble mode. So when I talked earlier of peaks and valleys, this whole COVID thing's been a roller coaster ride for us, to say the least. So for us, I will say without social media, we would have been really screwed.
Libby, you are always very vocal on social media. How have you guys utilized social media in a new way at all during this time? And has it helped reach new customers, or at least just maintain the ones you guys have?
I think it's helped us in far as numbers, which is nothing. It's something I try not to pay attention to as far as numbers. I think that as far as just being a human and trying to navigate this, trying to share your experience. I mean, I'm sure you saw some of the early videos we posted. Just trying to share what is raw, what you're going through. It was really hard as the parents of 2 toddlers, trying to navigate what is an unknown precedent. Like we talked about, like there's no playbook for how to navigate a pandemic as a small business. So just trying to explain what we're trying to do, what we think was working, and just the rawness of it really helped me kind of deal with it internally. As far as the brewery level, Steve is my counterpoint in that Steve is very stoic, and so he kind of helped with that. But we used social media when this first started is therapy, honestly. And since then, just making sure, hopefully not to put a burden onto people, but just let them know that we're here. We're still here. We're still trying as hard as we can. We're not only trying to support ourselves, we're here to support others, especially, and this time we're here to support Black-owned businesses, especially like using our voice to not only elevate ourselves, but elevate other platforms as well as small businesses in St. Louis and beyond. So social media has been key for a lot of us, where a lot of us would utilize advertising agencies. I'm not taking away from Sauce or Feast at all. They've been incredible. But social media has been really key for a lot of us, wearing our heart on our sleeve.
Well, and I think that vulnerability really also, as Steve says, as you guys have said, you know, I think it speaks to your customer. Everyone's feeling pretty scared, and no one knows what's happening next. And to know, hey, my favorite brewery is, you know, there's a person behind those beers. There's people behind those beers. Sorry, Steve, did I just interrupt you? Were you going to say something?
We had a little bit of fun with the social media stuff. We did some virtual tastings. You know, we tried, and we did a live streaming music series, which is kind of continuing tonight a little bit, but we paused the live stream on the patio. But, you know, to try and support local musicians, we would give a percentage of our takeouts to them because they had no place to play. And I'm a musician myself, so I got a soft spot for that. So we got creative with trying to do new things that we normally wouldn't do with social media. And that helps keep us in the forefront without just kind of begging for attention. We're trying to offer something back to the community as well.
We're here. That's what a lot of like what I've been trying to promote to other small breweries, like it takes a lot out of you to post every day. You feel like you're putting a little bit out, and also, and in all honesty, it seems a little bit selfish, but like at this time, like make sure people see you, whatever insignificant you think the post is, like we have this beer available today, we're supporting this artist today, we're doing whatever. Any sort of little bit of social media, it goes a long way during a pandemic, because I mean, most people are at home, working from home, hopefully not furloughed or unemployed, but unfortunately in some cases they are a lot. And a lot of the time, what do you do at home is you're scrolling through social media. So make sure that you're there, you're present, that you're empathizing, that you understand, that you know that you're right there with a lot of these people. And that's where social media has become a really huge part of our reach for people. But it's also on the other end of it, which I'm sure a lot of you guys can understand, there's a backlash to it. There's another end of social media, whereas the anonymity, people that don't agree with you. So.
Well, Libby, I will say that on my end, it's been very therapeutic as another brewery owner to see your posts, and also when I see your posts and talking about the reality of the situation that you guys are in, and for us to be in a parallel path, it's been therapeutic. Like, we know that we're not in this by ourselves.
You're not alone. You're not alone. Like,
yeah.
You need to know you're not alone. So.
Yeah. And you know, my wife, you know, you guys obviously have a husband-wife brewery team, which is, and I commend you for it. I don't know how you do it. It's incredible.
I don't know either.
You know, my wife, she's an occupational therapist, and she's had to adjust from working from home with our two boys and still homeschool. And so like we have at least a little bit of a, you know, like I'm at the brewery and then I come home, and then it's, you know, but for you guys to do what you're doing, it's been very therapeutic for me. So I just want to say thank you for, you know, at least being as transparent as you are on social, just because it's helped me in a long way.
And my wife follows Libby just for the cat posts alone.
Like a lot of us do. You know, I think, you know, we've talked about this over and over again in the sense that this St. Louis community, this beer community, is so strong and so incredible. You know, this is just a little bit of the struggles that breweries have been facing. Is there a piece of advice that you've received or you've given that you'd like to share with the larger beer community? Kevin, I know Libby mentioned that you were right there for them at the beginning of all this. What would you want to say to those out there that are watching, that are listening to this, something that you've learned over this 3-month craziness that you want to pass on?
You know, I mean, I think for us, it is stay positive, stay focused, stay innovative, stay creative. And I think that that's always kind of been a mantra of our brewery. We like to live outside of that box always. But I think now more than ever, it's really understand where you're at, what you can do, not only for you, but for the community still and always, and making sure that you're looking out for your teammates. And for us, it is how do you stay relevant, right? Like whether social media or new brands or a creative new packaging, you know, how are you making sure that you're staying on the radar? That's the most important piece of this really complicated puzzle right now. So we're working through that day by day. But at the end of the day, I also think it's continue to be passionate and thoughtful and caring, right? Like there will be a day when we're talking about this in past tense. And I am super excited for when that day comes, because I would say out of the one thing I'm missing the most is having a pint with a friend and giving hugs. And I can't wait until we're able to do that again.
Absolutely. Derek, you know, as one of the newer breweries out there, any advice that you have that you've received from somebody or that you wish you had? No.
Oh, wow. Man. So, you know, I think the main thing is just don't get in over your head. And I think it's important to be very true to your community. It's very, know why you're here and what you're about, and be genuine. And I think that will see us through, and that's what our communities will embrace. And I think that's what we all appreciate amongst ourselves, is that we all bring something unique and interesting to this incredible industry. And, you know, the more we can leverage that, the stronger we make each other. And so I'm very encouraged that, you know, this is a tough time, but this, you know, the tough times really force you to take stock of what's important and what's of most value to you and our customers, and that we're going to be better coming out the other side.
Mm-hmm. Denny, anything that you wish you had known 2 months ago, or a piece of advice that you'd share with those out there that you've learned?
Well, with us being the only brewery within, the closest to us is Perennial, so it's 25 minutes away. To me, it's, if you support your community and you do it passionately and you do everything you can to help people within your community, whether that be your local where you live or in the brewing community, it comes back, you know, fourfold. You know, we've personally, we donated 725 meals through this whole thing, to people in need, nursing homes, disability, you know, people on disability, that sort of thing. We did it because we want to. It's not because, but at the same time, as a business owner, you know, you hope that they end up telling other people that, hey, Main and Mill really is going out on a limb to do this. And that's what happens. So I just feel like if at any time in the past, you know, you do what you can to help your community, but whenever these type things and these bad times happen, that's when it really, really matters and really, really counts. Is if you reach out to the people that you know that you might be able to help, like I said, whether that is the people that live around you or it's a new brewery that started and needs to pivot and they maybe are scrambling more even than you are, it's worth it. I mean, it helps, it gets people on the right track, and people will do whatever they can at that point to support you. And it's just a good thing to do. So, you know, that to me, I think is the thing that I've always thought before. And then it really put it in, you know, much harder terms now, is even when you feel like things are going maybe not the best for you, they're always going worse for somebody else. And if you can reach out to that somebody else, it's always going to pay you back, no matter, you know, in some way, shape, or form. And it's been a thing for us that has made us feel good about what we're doing for the community more than ever before, I think.
Steve?
Yeah, I guess I'll share two things. One, I had a good friend say, you know, when you have a challenging situation, just run right into the storm, you know, because what's the alternative? And then the second thing is, you know, don't be afraid to put yourself out there on social, you know, to be as transparent. And it just, you know, I think that something that motivated me to get into the craft beer community was I'm a person that wears my heart on my sleeve. And I just, from even just this talk tonight, you can just see how each person wears the heart on their sleeve for their brewery. And, you know, and I think just, you know, there's a lot of self-doubt of like, oh, I don't want to put myself out there. And there is, you know, a hump to get over to get that. But I would just encourage people just to put yourself out there. And that's it.
So you said you had two things.
Well, then run into the storm.
Yeah, I guess. Okay. Let me see. What do you guys think? Advice out there that you maybe got from somebody, or that you've given during this time that you want to share with others?
Don't play volleyball.
Stop it. Benny, I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. That was a career ender for me. No longer playing anymore. So,
I guess two things. Advice that I've gotten is don't be afraid to be you. As far as a brewery, is what Denny has reiterated, what Kevin has. I mean, a small business is what you make it. I mean, we are what people make us to be, and the support we've gotten over the past few months has shown how much being a part of community matters. So giving back to community, I mean, we donate to every type of fund possible, whether it be a church, a school, anything, and just making sure that you're a part of a community. And most forefront and number one is making sure you're a part of this brewing community, making sure I'm available to you, Denny, making sure I'm available to you, Kevin, making sure I'm available as far as whether questions you have for us or questions we have for you. I mean, when we moved here 3 years ago, we made so many phone calls to brewery friends asking so much, and you guys laid it all out for us. A community, that's the number one thing, is just to be a community. And I don't know, like, we're just very thankful for you guys. And
Don't be a dick.
You know, I think
Amen.
there's a lot of scary statistics out there of businesses that aren't going to survive, places that won't reopen. But from you guys, what can we all as beer lovers do to ensure that you all, as well as the rest of our favorite breweries, survive this? Is there something you can tell us that we can do to help ensure your survival?
Continue to buy, not only through the brewery, but also distribution. I understand that Steve and Denny may not have the biggest distribution, but as far as Kevin and us, like, it doesn't matter whether you buy through us or through a store, like, as long as the support is there. But then also, like, sharing on social media. I know that may seem like a very insignificant, excuse me, very insignificant, but something as small as a like, as far as like a post that Kevin posts about 1220 or Four Hands, or as Steve posts about Center Ice, just something as small as liking on social media that gives it that much more of a boost. Like, just paying attention and then supporting that brewery as far as what they do above and beyond, as far as advocacy, whether that be just for their beer or beyond, like, whatever you believe in, like, just supporting them beyond just buying from the brewery itself. So, sorry.
I mean, I think that we already had that current of supporting local, but I think that times like this really show you how important that is, because it's not just a brand, right? It is a local company that employs a tremendous amount of local people. And within this category, I would just say, just know where where your money's going, right? And how is that dollar benefiting that purchase, right? At the end of the day, where's it going? And I think that supporting local right now is unbelievably important. And we already had the current, and now I think hopefully we're seeing rapids.
Yeah. Steve, you wanna talk on that?
Yeah, the one thing I would say that has been an eye opener lately during this era is I've had some really unbelievable friends. You know, they live in subdivisions, and they have small neighborhoods, and so what they're doing is they're putting group orders for curbside. So instead of a $20 curbside order, it's a $200 order. Or, I mean, I've got one buddy that, you know, has been ordering for Chesterfield, and some of his orders have been $1,200. And, you know, he's coming down with 8 coolers loading up the back of his truck. That has helped us more than I can say. So that would be one piece of advice.
Denny, you got anything to say on that aspect, on how people can make sure that they're helping you in any way, shape, or form at this time?
I just reiterate what has been said, like the sharing on social media. You know, we post our specials every day. We've never done that. I'm honestly, the last year before this, I didn't even post a special, not one time, that we had at our restaurant. You know, you get kind of caught up in the moment of, I've got this much stuff to do, and social media isn't, I just don't have time for it. And now with this whole thing, as Libby said, and Steve has said as well, how important it really is, because that's the number one connection that you can really make with people, unless they come into your place. If you're face to face, you can make a better connection than you can social media, but there is no other way. And with the COVID, where nobody can really go anywhere, that's the best connection you can have. So with the people that like your stuff and share it is an incredible help in getting things out there. Because what, you know, Libby was saying, where people are just flipping through their phone because they've got nothing else to do. If they see that you're serving beer, it's like, you know, all of a sudden maybe beer wasn't on their mind, even though they might be going to start drinking at 10 a.m., but it might be 9 a.m. They haven't thought about what they're going to drink yet. So, you know, flipping through it and say, oh, you know what? I haven't had Second Shift's beer in a while. I haven't had Main and Mill or Center Ice or Old Herald or Four Hands. I really want to, I haven't had that in a while. I haven't been to Schnucks in in 2 months, you know? So that sort of thing just gets people's mind going, and it does help. And, you know, the people coming to our curbside, obviously the money, that's what translates into the money, and the money's what makes sure that you can pay your employees. It's just that cycle, whatever it takes to get people in the door or out the door, close to the door with taking beer is helpful. And, you know, it shows now that, yeah, like I said, if you're supporting the community and you're putting yourself out there, people will respond well to it.
Well, and I think tonight shows that there's a ton of support here. And Troika, I know you're not a panelist, but I feel like I still want to ask you this. I mean, you guys have a lot of resources, a lot of support. What do you want to tell this community as a whole about the resources that there are for the St. Louis beer community?
I'm glad I figured out how to unmute that. Hi, everybody.
Elle has already abandoned you, and she's
Yeah.
not there to help.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting here very emotional listening to all these people, because these are people who inspire me, and I couldn't be more proud, not just of this group, but what I've seen from the local industry, from the local food and beverage industry, and from the greater St. Louis area. Pardon my language, but the shit's hit the fan, and we are absolutely getting a ringside seat at getting to see the best of what we have to offer. So yeah, in terms of resources, I mean, again, you guys have been talking about what everyone's doing on their own social media. You know, plug into your local breweries. Our own organization, STLBEER, STLBEER.org, we've got information on all the local breweries, but it's not a lot. Like the best you're going to get is by visiting their websites, their Facebook pages, their Twitter feeds, follow them, like them. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add there in terms of resources that these guys aren't already doing. But just pay attention, plug in. It's been hit on very heavily now more than ever. Supporting local is critical. And for a lot of us in this industry who have been, you know, promoting support local forever, Kevin absolutely hit it. Like, if you've always been about support local, cool. But like right now, these stakes, I mean, the stakes are watching people you love and who have put their lives into their businesses disappearing. So anything you can do, it's not just financial. Libby said it, like individual likes, anything you can do, share out people's posts. It does make a difference, especially right now for any of us who spend any amount of time on social media. It's a waterfall of mostly awful. I know my anxiety level goes up anytime I just plug in a Facebook for a few moments. So anything you can do to help cut through the noise and share out positive stories.
That's a great point, because, you know, the social media, there's so much noise out there. And I think the more that we can be positive and the more that we can share positive experiences. And so this is a little selfish, me as a new guy, you know, trying to establish a brand, trying to establish an experience on site. We're just trying to get people to know that we're here. And so if somebody has that word of mouth, and then that gets amplified by social media, but, you know, when we've been open, there's not a week that hasn't gone by that myself or one of my staff hasn't talked about one of your breweries and said, you got to check them out too. Well, we're on the Illinois side, you know, the folks here aren't as familiar with, as strange as it sounds, aren't as familiar with the St. Louis breweries, you know, except for the really well-known ones like Four Hands or Urban Chestnut. But the same from, you know, coming from Missouri, you know, be willing to come over and check out something that's within a few minutes drive away, but kind of share that experience. Share if you have a good experience, let people know about it. Leave a review, leave a positive review, you know, kind of reviews, Yelp and all that's gotten so nasty. You know, it's you're much more motivated to just kind of get your pound of flesh out of that stuff in the world of the past. But now let's think about it now. This is a way to support local.
And we're down to our final 10 minutes. Troika, I'm sorry, Derek, can I revert it back to Troika with the final 10 minutes? Derek, thank you very much for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I love you guys. This is tough. This is really tough. But at the same time, it is it has been inspiring to watch everyone, you know, to scramble. Everyone scrambled to figure this out. And I have seen just pure heart and pure genius at work for these last few months. And it has blown me away, and it has motivated me. And, you know, businesses and everything is going to come out different after all of this, but I am changed. And I think a lot of people who are plugged in and actually give a shit, pardon my language, this is a transformative experience that we are both individually and communally all living through. It doesn't get any crazier than this. So, you know, it's been amazing to watch everybody, and it's been amazing to watch everybody support you all and support this community. It's not just brewers and customers, it's also all of the people. I mean, you guys mentioned Craft Republic. When I worked to put together a fundraiser for furloughed employees, Brian and Craft Republic, they stepped up. They gave me a place to deliver beer and repackage it all. I mean, I was up in their place for a few days. Brian Dix did everything he could for us. He didn't ask for anything in return. I tried to do things to give him something in return, and he's like, no, like, this is what we can do to help our community. This isn't about business. This is about taking care of our community. And I have seen that over and over again. So I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I'm a beer half full kind of guy. And for everything that is scary and frightening and uncertain right now, the local brewing community in the greater St. Louis area, you guys have been one of the things that have been really getting me through this and keeping me feeling positive. So thank you.
And thank you guys, everyone, for joining us on this and really pouring your heart into this panel and this discussion. I think we could probably talk for hours on end because there's so much that we could all dive into. And I think everyone listening really appreciates how vulnerable you all have been, and how honest you've been with some of the challenges that have been faced. And you know, you've all mentioned the support that we can give, and for people that are furloughed, and you know, money's tight for a lot of people right now. That social media love really makes such a difference. As someone who spends way too freaking much time on social media, you know, you can't post too much. So I think that's, you know, post away, let people get into people's minds of reminding them about your beers and what you have to offer. I know some people are definitely excited to come check you guys out once you fully reopen in whatever capacity that is. And I will say that's one thing that we've seen is as upfront and communicative as you can be with your hours, how you're opening, what people need to know. It makes it, I think, easier for everyone as they're starting to emerge from their homes in these times. So that's it for my questions. Thank you all for letting me moderate this. Troika, I'll let you take this over. Oh, my dog just is starting to bark. You did so well up until this moment.
Alexis, thank you so much. I actually texted Alexis during this. The best decision I have made probably in months was to reach out to Alexis to moderate this. I had an amazing panel. We had a relevant, interesting topic, and I needed to bring in a ringer to make sure that this conversation was really what it could be. I cannot thank you enough. You are amazing. To our panelists, you're amazing. You've blown me away. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. I know. Well, I'll just sort of leave that, and I'll follow up with you guys individually. Master Brewers STLBEER put this thing together. We're going to try to do a few more of these. If you want to save the date, the next one is scheduled for July 16th, and we're going to have that topic hopefully in the panelists out in the next couple days. And then the one after that will be August 20th. So if you can save that date, we'll be doing the same sort of roundtable thing with local industry folks. Alexis, again, very quickly, please check out Meet St. Louis podcast. She's been putting podcasts together. How many episodes have you done at this point?
Next week will be our 99th episode. And most people on here have been on it. Derek, I'm going to have to come out to Collinsville and get you on this podcast.
Come on out. Love to have you.
Yeah. Alexis has been reaching out and working her way through the food and beverage industry and basically just amazing local businesses in St. Louis. That podcast, if you are interested in the local food and beverage, the local St. Louis just startup and entrepreneurial industry, check out that podcast. It is unbelievable. We have also, again, this has been free. The next few will be free as well. If you want to make a donation of any amount, even $5, it helps, to the Master Brewers Scholarship Fund. The link for that is on the event pages for this. It's actually STLBEER's PayPal giving fund, and we'll be passing through the funds to them on that. But that's really all I've got for this. We're hitting this at 2 hours. Thank you all for joining in. I think we had at one point close to 100 people tuned in on both Zoom and on Facebook. And we've recorded this and we'll have this available for later as well. But
can I say something without being an asshole?
Absolutely, no.
I mean, it's going to be kind of an asshole. Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely. There's a whole lot going on in the world right now. And again, I'm a glass half full kind of person, so I'm actually very enthusiastic about what I'm seeing right now, and watching what's going on. So stay plugged in, folks. Please care.
Thanks, guys.
But this is going to do it for us tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you have questions after the fact, feel free to reach out. And I think this is gonna put this first one away. Again, Steve, Libby, Steve again, Derek, Denny, Alexis, Kevin, thank you so much for helping us put this together tonight. You guys are absolute leaders in this community, and you do our city and our community incredibly proud. So thank you again.
Thanks,
All right,
Troika.
everyone, be
Really
safe.
appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks, Alexis.
Stay healthy, stay
Cheers.
positive.
Really appreciate it.
We appreciate being
Thanks,
a
you
part.
guys.
Appreciate y'all.
Take care. I'll see if I can figure out how to turn this off.
Hit the bottom.
Oh my God,
And you have to stop the recording to make
That is
sure
the button I'm looking for. Ooh. All right.